I'm just happy with my life in general. You guys are looking at somebody who just celebrated his 2-year wedding anniversary right before your eyes. Thank you. I am married to the love of my life, and people are like, Dan, how do you know she's the love of your life? And I tell them this because she's just as big of a nerd as I am. By her choice, I did not push in. This was her choice. We had a Batman-themed wedding. Yeah. And I don't mean I wore a Batman shirt underneath my tuxedo. I dressed up like the real Batman for my wedding service. She dressed up as Batgirl. My best man dressed up as Robin. And I mean the 1966 TV show Robin with the tight green Speedo shorts that go all the way up your thighs, which kind of upset me because he didn't ask to borrow those. Which I would have washed them for him. He's my best man. Get this, instead of getting a limousine, we actually rented a Batmobile for us to ride off in at the end of the night. It shot fire. I'll show anybody pictures who wants to see it. The only part of my Batman wedding I did not like was the part where my parents got murdered in an alley. But it's what my wife wanted. It was... her special day, and always support your wife. That's something my dad used to say. You guys are smart. I used to because of murder. Yeah, she's a big nerd like me. The one thing she's not nerdy about that I'm a huge fan of pro wrestling, and I thought she was too, because for the first year and a half that we dated, every Monday night she watched WWE Monday Night Raw with me. And I thought this was cool. I thought I had a girl digging pro wrestling. After a year and a half, she's like, this is the dumbest thing I ever watched. She was like, I hate this. Can we watch something else? I'll be honest, it hurt a little bit, because she was doing something she didn't want to do, but I knew what the right thing to do was, and I gave her the remote control. You guys should have saw she had the most beautiful, happy smile on her face. And she pointed the remote at the television, but before she could turn the channel, I hit her in the back with a chair. I was like, clearly you have not been paying attention to wrestling at all the last year and a half. She didn't see the flying elbow off the couch either, and that's when I pinned her to become champion. So the champ is here in Provo. Woo! I know she loves me. This is something embarrassing, but it really did show how much she does truly love me. Last year, she had to bail me and my brother out after we got arrested for fighting in public. And I wish I could tell you guys we went out to a bar, we started some trouble, we're trying to be these tough guys. When in reality, it was at a Dungeons & Dragons game night that got completely out of control. I wish I was making that part up. If you don't know what Dungeons & Dragons is, that means you were cool in high school. You were busy dating and playing sports, not me. Now here's the thing, if you get arrested in this day and age, if you're anything like me, this is what happens. You get arrested, you're taken downtown, you're put in a holding cell for a little bit. After you simmer down for a while, police officer escorts you from the holding cell to the telephone for your constitutional phone call. The officer will hand you the receiver in your hand, and if you're anything like me, you'll look at the telephone at the police station and realize you don't know anybody's phone number anymore. It's a big deal. The officer looks at me like I'm an idiot. He goes, how do you not know a single phone number? I'm like, officer, I haven't dialed a phone number in 10 years. Nobody has their house phone anymore. I know 2 phone numbers by heart. Mine and 911. Which sucks because we're both here. And neither of us are helping me. I mentioned Dungeons & Dragons. Some of you might not know what it is. I'm not going to get into details, but everything I tell you about what happened that evening, you'll understand about the game. When me and my brother play Dungeons & Dragons, we like to dress up for the occasion, and we don't bring a spare change of clothes. If you get arrested in a small town like we did, they don't have one of those orange jumpsuits for you to change into, so you're wearing whatever you were wearing that evening when you got arrested. And you're also going to share that cell with whoever else got arrested that evening. That evening, there was a gentleman. He was 6'5", 250 pounds of jacked muscle. He had on jean shorts, a wife beater, a bald head, a tattoo on his head, and spike earrings going up and down his ears. And he's looking at me and my brother as we're donning our cloaks and our capes. And this guy's got some questions. And my brother stayed in his character. He was like, hey, what did you guys do to get arrested? My brother's like, a wizard poisoned my dragon. I hit him in the head with a battle axe. And that guy did not mess with us for the rest of the evening. He might think we're going to try to cast a spell on him. I'm glad you guys like that one. Because I am pretty embarrassed by it, to believe it or not. It was the first time in 15 years I've been arrested. I was a bad teenager growing up. I was constantly, taken to the police station for fighting and shoplifting and vandalism. The first time I ever got in any kind of real trouble, I was 11 years old and I egged my neighbor's house, which they knew it was me because I did it from inside of my house. Which really upset my dad in the morning when he didn't have eggs for his omelet. But you know what, I was so bad, it got to the point where my parents actually moved me to a different school system because they wanted me to be around new people, get a fresh start. They also wanted me to start, new and focus on grades and focus on school because they wanted me to go to a good college and get a good degree. And because of that, I would like to tell you guys, you're looking at somebody who's got 2 master's degrees from the prestigious Cornell University right before your eyes. Thank you. Like I said, I would like to tell you that, but I only went to community college, so I can't. I didn't finish either, so. I got that art degree holding over my head right now. I am a community college dropout. I did not finish my time at school. When I was 20 years old, I dropped out, and my parents were like, you need to get a real job, or you need to get out of the house, or you need to go back to school. So I actually got hired at a bank as a teller, because most banks don't require a college degree. And it was my first big boy job, and I realized on my first day, I'm not ready to be an adult yet. My manager handed out paper to me and my coworkers. She's like, write down 3 goals that you guys want accomplished before this year is over. I did not know that she wanted work-related goals. While all my teammates wrote down they want a raise, promotion, better customer service, I wrote down that I wanted to go to WrestleMania. I wrote down I want to fight and pin a bear at the carnival. I wrote down I want to watch every Rocky movie in one sitting without getting up to pee. My manager thought I was stupid. But I'm the only person who accomplished all their goals that year, so. You wonder what happens to a generation where everybody gets a trophy. You're looking at it right now. Sometimes after shows, people ask me, like, hey, how come you didn't stick with banking or finances? Why didn't you make a career out of that? It's a pretty simple answer. I got fired. For accepting counterfeit money at my teller station 3 days in a row from the same person. They're mad by that 3rd day. The vice president of the region came in and he was like, Dan, how can you make this mistake? I was like, hey, this is one real looking $7 bill. It's got a picture of Pee Wee Herman on it, Dan. I'm like, I don't know, it's on a $7 bill. I never see one before. That's not a good argument to keep a job, apparently. But this is fun. I love doing comedy. I get to travel all across the country. I get to be a part of Dry Bar Comedy now. Last year, I got to perform at 7 different minor league baseball games during the 7th-inning stretch and 2 NBA halftime shows center court. And I thought that was going to be the highlight. But in July, a booker reached out to me, and I got to tell you, this was the coolest gig I've ever done in my life. I was asked to perform for the troops, which was something that I was humbled and I was privileged. Thank you. I appreciate it. Please don't clap. It was just a Civil War reenactment. I leave that part of my bio and hope comedy clubs don't ask questions because it's embarrassing. They get excited. Like, you perform for the troops? Was it the Army, the Navy, the Marines? I'm like, nope, the Union. I opened for Abraham Lincoln. He paid me in cash. It was all in 5s because he's on the 5. And a 7. Now, I don't want you guys to get worried, okay? Whenever I tell that story, people hear the word troops, they hear the word war, they think I'm going to be a political comedian. It's 2020. You guys are going to get enough political ads coming in the next few months. I am not here to persuade you guys one way or the other, but I will say this because I think it's something we all can agree on. As of last year, it's been made legal in all 50 states. On a hot summer day, if you walk past a car and there's an animal inside and the windows are rolled all the way up, legally, you can break into that car. Did you guys know that? That is a fantastic law. Like I say, and I love that law because every summer I steal so much crap. And all I use is a brick and a stray cat. It works. I get phones, briefcases, iPads. This past summer, there was a dog in a car. I broke in, took the dog, left the cat, sold the dog, and I bought more bricks. Oprah calls that reinvesting in your own business. She did. She wrote a whole chapter in her book. Somebody left the book in the back seat of their car. All right. Anybody out there like me? You guys ever go to the store? And when you're in the parking lot, you hit another car, and you're just like, well, not shopping here today. So I did that twice yesterday. I did it at Walgreens and CVS, so my sinuses are killing me. If anyone has nasal spray, I'll gladly take it from you. I forgot to mention this. There was a short period of time I actually worked as a car insurance adjuster. So if you guys ever got to a car accident, I was the person to help you get like repairs done and rental, things like that. A lot of people don't know this. If you're driving in your car and you hit a deer and you gotta get your vehicle fixed, most insurance companies don't raise your premium. They call that an act of nature. When I was younger, my dad knew about that little bit of a loophole. He was out partying a little bit too late one night. He hit a pole in the morning, called the insurance, and told him he hit a deer. Now, when you do that, they send someone out to look at the car because no matter how hard you hit a deer, there's always going to be hair left over. And my dad knew that they were going to check for that, so my dad shaved our dog. And Jake from State Farm knew he was lying right away. He was like, Mr. Brown, I've never seen a deer spotted like a Dalmatian before. My dad was like, yeah, they're new. They just started making them. So I did mention that I did have a Batman-themed wedding, and that is 100% true. It's one of the coolest days of my life. I'm so happy my wife thought of it. So as you guys can imagine, my favorite holiday is Halloween. I like it a lot more now as an adult because as a kid, my family did not have a lot of money, so Halloween was never a priority to us. And it hurt because I go trick-or-treating with my friends, and my buddy Steve was Superman. He had the muscles and the cape, and my buddy Justin was a G.I. Joe. He had the camouflage face paint, the camouflage gear, the boots, the toy gun, And it hurt because I had to make my own costume for several years. And the only thing I could do is I'd take a big red rope and hold it over my head just like this. I'll go door to door trick-or-treating, and people would be like, little boy, what are you supposed to be? And I would tell them, I'm a child living below the poverty line. And I got twice as much candy as all the other kids. I know, I'm a pretty smart idiot. But the big reason why we never spent any money on Halloween as a kid is because my birthday was in November, and then December was Christmas, so my parents always wanted to make sure that those days were good. And I have to say, I never had a bad birthday, I never had a bad Christmas in my life because of my parents and whatnot. And I'll tell you guys this, I just turned 32 years old. I'm a big sports fan. My wife got me an autographed frame photo of Muhammad Ali for my birthday. Yeah, it is the crown jewel of my collection. It's so cool. That was the thing my dad would get me every year, and over the years I built up like some really cool stuff. Like I have a Ken Griffey Jr. signed baseball, a Wayne Gretzky hockey puck, Brett Favre football, Mike Tyson boxing glove, Hulk Hogan bandana. And when me and my wife got married, we had to pack up all that stuff and ship it to the house that we bought. And a few months ago, we finally got a chance to unpack the final box, which was all my sports memorabilia. And she sits down next to me on the couch, and she sees me smiling and laughing because I have all these great memories with my dad, and I'm holding them in my hand, and I'm looking at Brett Favre and Ken Griffey Jr. and Hulk Hogan. I just think to myself, holy cow, they all have the same handwriting. Glad you guys got that one. I tell you that because I told that story a few months ago in Mississippi. I was doing a club out there, sold out 500 people, 499 of them did not laugh. Lucky for me, the person who did laugh was sitting in the front row, like right where you are, ma'am. She stood up, turned to the audience, and explained to them that they were fake autographs. But it would be wrong of me to not mention this. As I'm talking about cool gifts and Halloween and stuff, I have to say this. Just over a year ago, I have received what I call the best gift of my life. I call it the gift from God. I became a father for the first time in my life to a little baby boy. And thank you. Little Roman Ray Brown, he's back at home, and I love him to death, and I miss him terribly right now. And I'm going to say this. I was into the room for the delivery, and I'm not going to get graphic here or anything like that, but I didn't think I'd be able to because I get queasy watching medical shows. But I was able to man up and whatnot, and I think it was because it was for my wife, and I knew it was going to be for my son. And I just wish somebody would have told me that when a baby is born, their head looks really weird. And my wife was like, well, it was in the book that you read. I'm like, well, clearly I lied about reading the book. I read somewhere afterwards that 95% of the babies come out with like a cone-shaped head. 5% come out with a bump on their head a little bit smaller than the size of your fist. My son's part of the 5%. Now, at my age right now, believe it or not, I have not seen a newborn to my memory, at least anyone that I can remember. So when I see a circular bump start coming into the world, I think that's the size of a newborn's head. And I'm cheering my wife on, and I'm like, he's almost here, you're doing great. And she's pushing, and more of the bump comes in, and on the side of the bump, there's hair, but where it's at, I think my son is bald, and I think the hair is the eyes, and I'm like, honey, I see his eyes. And she's like, you don't see his eyes? I'm like, don't you tell me what I'm looking at right now. And the doctor's like, sir. I was like, no, it's not fair. She never believes me. It's not because she's pregnant. She's always been this way. I hate it. I can't take it anymore. And I was wrong. Because her last big push I can only describe as the most disgusting magic trick I've ever seen. Because my son was born 10 pounds, 11 ounces. A little bit bigger than that. To which I went, and passed out. I woke up 20 minutes later to a nurse holding an ice pack on my head. I had not yet opened my eyes, but the first thing I clearly hear is the sound of my mother-in-law's voice saying, see, I told you he couldn't handle this. But it is so rewarding being a dad, especially now because he's developing such a personality. And I travel a lot for comedy, so every time I'm home, I get to play with him, I get to hold him. And I do three things every day I get to see him. I tell him I love him, I tell him to never give up on your dreams, and I tell him to shoot for the stars. Because I know right now he doesn't understand what any of these words mean, but I want it to be cemented in his head when he does start to understand what these means, that his dad loves him and believes in him. More importantly, I hope that one day this leads to a relationship where he can come to me for advice. Because as much as I love my dad, advice has never been a strong point. Sadly, the best advice my dad ever gave me, it was about 3 or 4 years ago. It was a voicemail that he left me at 2 o'clock in the morning after he'd been out with his friends a little bit too late. And he was like, listen, Dan, every zoo is a petting zoo if you can run fast enough. Yay-ha, click. And I'm like, what? What does that mean? I don't think it means anything. Well, it turns out that was good advice because the day before, some lady jumped a jaguar exhibit at the Erie, Pennsylvania Zoo and got mauled to death. And I was like, oh, she didn't run fast enough. Her family's so excited for the baby. My family's so excited for the baby. I gotta tell you, and I hope my son takes more so after my wife because she is beautiful on the inside and out. She really does come from a very smart family. And the reason I made fun of Mississippi is because half of my family is originally from Mississippi. So I have a lot of really deep hillbilly blood in my family. And they get mad at me when I call them that. They're like, why do you think you can call us hillbillies? It's pretty simple. We're having this argument in your house while you're driving it. We come from, me and my wife, though, we come from two very different worlds. And it often leads to like some of our arguments too, because like I'll tell you this, like I came from like a very strong Catholic family. I grew up Catholic. I did, all the things you got to do as a Catholic child growing up, and she came from like the New Age style family where they have the tarot cards and the horoscopes and things like that and the crystals, which I used to snicker to myself for the first few months that we started dating. I was like, this is kind of silly, but it's something she believes in, so I'll support her in this. And then about 6 months in, when we started dating, we were going to go to the mall and she couldn't find her car keys, so she took out one of those Ouija boards. And now I'm really making fun of her at this point. I'm like, this is the dumbest thing I've ever seen in my life. And she takes out the board and she asked it where her keys are, and it said couch. And she checked underneath the couch and she found the car keys, and then she came to me. She's like, are you ready to go to the mall? I was like, instead of going to the mall, why don't we go to church and see if there's enough holy water to wash whatever demon you summoned among both of us right now. Or if you want to go to the mall, I'll drive separately. We even got a disagreement this past year for Christmas because it was like my son's first real Christmas, and we got into a disagreement about Santa Claus. And I did not want my son to get his picture taken with him because I grew up not liking him. I'll tell you why. My friends didn't understand. They're like, hey, he brings you gifts, he brings you candy. What don't you like about Santa? I was like, well, number one, he breaks into your house. Number two, he eats all of your cookies. Number three, if you climb down your steps quiet enough, you'll find him kissing your mommy. That's not somebody I want in my house. That sounds more like my dad's brother. Oh, my dad hates that joke. And that's why I say it. He was like, hey, when you go do your special, you're not going to tell the Santa Claus joke. I was like, no! Yes, I am. You guys are fun. I got to get out of here. And before I do, and I know this is Dry Bar, and I'm a big fan of it, and I'm a big fan of you guys for supporting it. And I know you guys want the big comedy laugh at the very end. And but when my wife was in delivery, I was thinking about a lot of things because I was seeing my whole life change right before my eyes. And we binge watched a show about bullying in high school. And it really brought back a lot of bad memories. And like I said, it reminded me of all the things that I hated. And it reminded me of all the things that I don't want for my son. But during that time, it also reminded me of the moment I truly knew my wife was the one for me. It was about 4 years ago around this time. And on Facebook how the things pop up, like the event pages? I saw the words 10-year high school reunion. And I told my wife what I wanted to do, and at this time, we're not even engaged. She was still my girlfriend. She's like, I love you, and I'll support you in this. So we go to the restaurant where they're having the reunion, and as soon as I walk in the doors, I locked eyes with the most popular guy. If you didn't go to this high school, you would just know he's the most popular guy. He had like 15 people listening to every word he had to say. He had nice shoes, nice clothes, nice haircut. I was holding my wife by the hand. I let go. I take a deep breath, and I walk right over to him, and I put my finger in his chest. I was like, you made my life miserable. It has finally taken me, after 10 years, to accept me for who I am. I took what your opinion was of me as fact, and that's not right. You no longer have this control over me. And every one of you who's listening to this guy, you should be disappointed in yourselves, and you should know better. And I turn around, I grab my wife by the hand, and we walk out. We're not even there for 5 minutes. We get to the car. I open up the car door for her. She sits down. I shut it. As I'm walking around to the front, my knees start to shake, and I have to hold myself up on the hood of the car so I can walk. I get into the front door. I sit down, and as I go put the key in the ignition, my hands are shaking really bad, and I drop the keys between the seats. And at this point, I'm hysterical. I'm shaking. I'm sweating. I'm starting to swear. I'm starting to cry. And as I'm this ugly mess, my wife just puts her hand on my knee, and I look up at her, and she's giving me the biggest smile, and she tells me how proud of me, how proud I made her, and how much she loves me. And my wife's smile has always made me smile. So even though I'm this hysterical mess, I'm smiling. After about a minute, I start to calm down, and that smiling turns into laughter, like big belly laughter. And then we're laughing so hard we're crying, because I never went to that high school.
We did that shtick for the next 10 weeks. We're real Abbott Costello. Thank you guys so much. My name is Dan Brown. You guys are amazing. Thank you for coming out. Everybody, have a good night.